There are 5 psychological tricks that make narcissists regret their mind games. Have you ever found yourself in a relationship where your own reality begins to feel like sand slipping through your fingers? You know what you saw, you remember what was said, but you're being told, with absolute certainty, that you're wrong. One moment, you're the center of their universe, a tactic called love bombing, and the next, you're devalued, your confidence chipped away, until you feel like a stranger to yourself. You replay conversations, searching for a truth that keeps shifting, a reality authored by someone else. This experience isn't in your head. It's a deeply isolating form of psychological manipulation. They use tactics like gaslighting to make you doubt your memory, projection to assign their toxic behaviors to you, and the silent treatment to punish you into compliance. It's a disorienting cycle, engineered to erode your sense of self. And, well, it can lead to anxiety, depression, or even complex trauma. But what if understanding the psychology behind the manipulation was the key to dismantling it? In this video, we aren't exploring revenge. Revenge keeps you tied to their game. Instead, we'll explore 5 psychological countermoves, grounded in understanding their playbook, so you can render it ineffective. These are not attacks, they are acts of empowerment. Because the deepest regret a narcissist can feel isn't for the pain they caused you, it's for losing control over you. Before we explore these countermoves, let's be clear. When we talk about making a narcissist regret their actions, we really need to separate that from genuine remorse. True remorse, you see, it's born from empathy. That's the ability to feel another's pain. But in someone with strong narcissistic traits, this empathy, well, it's often profoundly underdeveloped, or just plain absent. Their psychology, it just isn't built for regret as we know it. They don't regret hurting you, because in their worldview, your pain is always secondary to their own needs. So, what does a narcissist truly regret? First, they regret the loss of narcissistic supply. You weren't just a person, you know. You were a source of attention, admiration, and all that emotional reaction. They feed on your energy, whether that's praise or even frustration. When you stop providing this supply, well, they experience a profound loss. Not of you per se, but of a resource. It's the regret a machine might feel, you know, when its power source is cut. Second, they regret the loss of control. Narcissists, they build a really fragile sense of superiority, and it's all based on their ability to orchestrate the emotional lives of others. When you see their patterns and you set boundaries, you seize control of your own mind. And to them, well, this is a terrifying challenge to their ego. Their regret? It's the frustration of a puppeteer whose strings have been cut. And third, they regret the damage to their public image. A narcissist constructs a meticulous facade, a false self they project to the world. They need to be seen as admirable and flawless. When you break free and thrive, your success becomes living evidence of their failure. Your peace exposes their chaos. Their regret is the panic of their mask slipping, revealing the emptiness underneath. They fear exposure more than anything. Understanding this reframe, it's critical. Stop waiting for an apology that will never arrive. Their regret isn't born from empathy, but from ego, the sting of being outplayed and rendered irrelevant. The principles we're about to discuss aren't designed to make them feel sorry. They're designed to trigger this narcissistic regret by demonstrating your independence and indifference. To a narcissist, that's the deepest injury of all. The first psychological countermove is the anchor of objectivity, and it's a direct response to gaslighting. Gaslighting is the systematic distortion of reality, designed to make you doubt your own perception, and even your sanity. Over time, you see, it erodes your trust in yourself, making you utterly dependent on their version of events. Arguing, or defending your memory, that's the exact emotional reaction the narcissist wants. The argument itself becomes a tool to exhaust you, to make you feel unstable, and ultimately, providing them with supply. Now, the anchor of objectivity completely flips this dynamic. Instead of engaging emotionally, you respond with calm, documented facts. You become an unmovable object of reality, something they simply cannot distort. This, of course, requires foresight and intense emotional discipline. You become a quiet archivist of your own reality. That means saving texts, emails, and making private notes of verbal exchanges. This isn't for them, you know. No, this is for you. It's to anchor your own mind firmly in the truth. Let's consider a scenario. A narcissist promises to handle a bill, but fails to do so. When you bring it up, the gaslighting begins. I never said that. You were supposed to do it. You're always trying to blame me. The old you might have argued. The new you, though, anchored in objectivity. You regulate your emotions and calmly state, "Actually, I have the text from Tuesday at 3:15 p.m. where you confirmed you'd handle it." Observe the shift in power. You haven't called them a liar or become emotional. You've simply held up a mirror to objective reality. There's no room for argument. They're cornered by fact. Their reaction will be telling. They may erupt in anger, a narcissistic injury, because you refuse to play the game. They might deflect, saying, "Well, you should have reminded me." Do not take this secondary bait. The goal isn't to win, it's to end the debate. Your response is simple. The late fee needs to be paid. How should we handle it? You return the focus to the practical issue, away from the drama. Psychologically, this is devastating for a narcissist. They operate in a world of illusion, where they're the sole author of reality. By presenting concrete evidence, you shatter that illusion. You demonstrate that you're no longer a malleable character in their story, but an independent observer with a firm grip on the facts. The regret they feel is that of underestimation. They regret choosing a target who's now too grounded to be manipulated. You are no longer a game. You are a fortress. By calmly using the anchor of objectivity, you protect your sanity and send a clear message. Your mind is no longer their playground. Our second, and perhaps most powerful, countermove is the void of emotional reaction. This is a strategic application of the gray rock method. The premise here is to become unresponsive, an energetic void where their provocations simply disappear without a trace. You see, narcissists are addicts, and their drug, it's your emotional reaction. They intentionally bait you just to elicit a response. Your anger, your frustration, your tears, they're all forms of validation, proving they have power over you. So, the void of emotional reaction is the conscious withholding of this very fuel. When they throw their bait, whether it's a false accusation or an insult, it is met with absolutely nothing. So let's explore this. The narcissist, feeling a loss of control, says, "I saw you on your phone all night. You're obviously hiding something." The old you, you'd get defensive. "What are you talking about? I was just reading the news." That's a feast for the narcissist. But the new you, completely void of reaction, you'd look up, make brief, neutral eye contact, and then say nothing, simply returning to what you were doing. Or, if you must respond, you offer a single, neutral word, "Okay." Then you disengage, perhaps by calmly leaving the room. The silence that follows is deafening to them. They've launched an attack, and it just vanished. No impact. Their first instinct? To escalate. "So you're just going to ignore me?" That's what guilty people do. This is the critical test. You must not take the secondary bait. You must remain a black hole. You can respond with calm detachment. "I'm not having this discussion," and continue to disengage. Psychologically, this starves them. Their sense of self is propped up by the reactions they provoke. When you offer no reaction, you're essentially erasing their existence in that moment. You non-verbally communicate that their attempts at control are too insignificant to warrant a response. This is the ultimate invalidation. The regret they feel is one of powerlessness. They're used to being the director of the emotional drama, and you've simply walked off the stage. They regret provoking you, because it resulted in nothing but the humiliating echo of their own voice. Now, mastering this isn't easy. It requires you to regulate your own nervous system in the face of intense provocation. Remind yourself, this is a game. I will not play. The narcissist is like a child throwing a tantrum. By not reacting, you teach them that their tantrums no longer work on you. The third countermove is building the architecture of boundaries. This is about setting and enforcing firm boundaries, not as polite requests, but as non-negotiable laws of interaction, with clear consequences. See, narcissists are, by nature, boundary pushers. They see your limits as a challenge, truly believing their desires supersede your autonomy. A typical boundary fails with a narcissist because it lacks one crucial element: an immediate and consistent consequence. You might say, "Please don't speak to me like that," only to have them repeat the exact same behavior days later. Now, building an unbreachable architecture of boundaries means you define the rule and the consequence in one clear statement, and you execute that consequence every single time, without emotion. The formula is, if you do unacceptable behavior, I will do specific action to protect myself. Let's apply this to verbal abuse. Imagine they say, "That idea is ridiculous. You never know what you're talking about." The old you might have felt hurt or defensive, but the new you've already established a clear boundary. Something like, "I will no longer participate in conversations where I am being insulted. If you insult me, I will end the conversation." So, when the insult happens, there's no debate. There's only the consequence. You calmly state, "I'm ending this conversation now," and you just walk away. You don't slam the door, no. You simply execute that pre-stated consequence with quiet, firm efficiency. Their reaction? Well, it'll likely be rage or victimhood. They'll say, "You're too sensitive. I can't believe you're walking away." They'll try to guilt you into re-engaging, but you must not. Psychologically, this is a profound shock to their system. They expect to transgress your boundaries without cost. When you enforce a clear consequence, you shift the focus from their behavior, which you can't control, to your response, which you can. You're teaching them, through direct cause and effect, that toxic behavior results in an immediate loss of access to you. The regret they feel is one of miscalculation. They banked on your compliance and assumed your fear of conflict was greater than your need for respect. When you enforce the boundary, you prove their calculation wrong. They regret their action, not because it was hurtful, but because it cost them your attention. This requires immense consistency. If you enforce the boundary 4 out of 5 times, the narcissist learns there's a chance they can still get away with it. But when you become 100% consistent, they learn that crossing a certain line will always result in the loss of their supply. All right, so the fourth countermove, that's reclaiming the narrative. This strategy, it really dismantles one of the narcissist's most destructive games: triangulation. What is that? Well, it's when the narcissist brings a third person into your dynamic to create insecurity and jealousy. They want to validate their own perspective, while completely invalidating yours. They might say something like, "I was talking to Mark, and even he thinks you're overreacting." See? That's designed to make you feel isolated and force you to compete for, the narcissist's approval. Reclaiming the narrative just means seizing control of the story. You refuse to let the narcissist be the sole narrator. Instead, you proactively and transparently manage your own relationships, cutting them out of their role as that manipulative middleman. Let's look at the example. The narcissist says, "Our mutual friend Mark told me he thinks you've been very unstable lately." See, the goal here? It's to isolate you. The old you might have panicked. Now, the new you don't engage with the narcissist about Mark. Your response to the narcissist is dismissive, perhaps just using the void of reaction. Like, "Okay." Your next move, though, that's the crucial one. You go directly to the source. You contact Mark and say, Hey, something strange happened. The narcissist mentioned you were concerned about me. I just wanted to check in directly and see if everything is okay between us. This single action, it totally short-circuits their game. Here's how it plays out. Either Mark says, "I never said that," instantly exposing the narcissist's lie to both of you. Or he confirms he did express concern, but that's likely based on some twisted story from the narcissist, right? In either scenario, you now completely control the narrative. You can calmly present your side of the story directly to Mark. Psychologically, this is the narcissist's worst nightmare. Their power in triangulation comes from controlling information and playing people against each other. When you create direct, transparent lines of communication, you remove their power. You're no longer a passive character in their story. You've become the author of your own. Now, the regret they feel. It's the regret of exposure and strategic failure. They regret trying to use a third party because, well, it backfired. Not only did they fail to isolate you, but they damaged their own credibility. They see you're not a helpless victim, but a savvy operator who will protect your own relationships. If you find this exploration of human psychology valuable, and if you're ready to move from reaction to understanding, consider subscribing to this channel. This journey of reclaiming your mind is a marathon, not a sprint. So, for more insights on navigating the complexities of human nature, hit that subscribe button. We're just getting started. So, we've arrived at the fifth and final countermove. This isn't just a tactic, it's a state of being. It's truly the end goal of your healing, and the single most devastating blow to a narcissist's ego, the indifference gambit. Now, the previous countermoves, they're powerful for sure, but they're still a reaction to the narcissist's presence. The indifference gambit, though, is about transcending the game entirely. It's the achievement of genuine, profound indifference. You see, a narcissist's entire self-concept is built on the impact they have on others. They need to be loved or hated. They absolutely cannot stand to be ignored. And as long as you feel anger or resentment, well, you're still tethered to them. The indifference gambit, then, is the cutting of that final tether. It's when you focus so completely on your own life, your growth, and your happiness, that the narcissist becomes a distant, irrelevant memory. This, truly, is achieved through dedicated healing work. First up, no contact. When possible, cutting off all contact is truly the fastest path to indifference. It simply allows your nervous system to heal. Next, focus on your growth. Pour all that energy you once spent on them right back into yourself. Reconnect with friends. Build something new. When your life becomes really rich and fulfilling, that space they occupied, well, it naturally shrinks. And finally, heal your wounds. This is, hands down, the most critical part, often requiring professional help to process the trauma and work through any self-blame. You really have to forgive yourself for what you just didn't know at the time. When you succeed, you might hear about them and feel nothing. No spike of anger, no pang of sadness, just a faint recognition of someone you used to know. Psychologically, this is the ultimate narcissistic injury. They believed they were the main character in your story, you know? Your indifference proves them wrong. It tells them they weren't the epic love or the arch nemesis. They were just a chapter. And that chapter, it's over. The regret they feel is the most profound of all. The regret of irrelevance. They see you thriving, not as an act of revenge, but simply because you're living for yourself. Your success has nothing to do with them, and that's what destroys their ego. They regret losing you because your thriving life is a constant, glaring testament to their failure to break you. Your happiness becomes the ghost that haunts them. The indifference gambit is your victory. It's a quiet, powerful peace. It's the moment you realize you're no longer a player in their game, because in the world you've built for yourself, they simply don't matter anymore. Today, we've walked through 5 psychological countermoves to reclaim your mind. We began with the anchor of objectivity, using facts to shatter gaslighting. We moved to the void of emotional reaction, starving them of the responses they crave. We learned to build the architecture of boundaries with immediate consequences, and we discussed reclaiming the narrative to dismantle triangulation. Finally, we arrived at the ultimate victory, the indifference gambit, where you heal so completely they become irrelevant. Your journey forward is about investing the energy you once poured into deciphering their games into your own life. The narcissist's greatest fear. It's not your anger, it's your indifference. It's the realization that their attempts to diminish you, well, they only made you stronger, and that you've built a life where they hold no power. This path, it's not easy, but you're not defined by the abuse you endured. No, you're defined by the strength you're now choosing to embrace. Continue to build your fortress, guard your energy, and focus on your path, because the most brilliant life you can live is the one that makes them regret everything. Not because you fought their battle, you see, but because you were too busy winning your own.